Welcome to Team Fight Takes, the TFT podcast with hot takes and even hotter sludge coming out of Kai's toilet on
Oh
this
my god.
beautiful Friday morning. How's it going, Kai?
Sludge is a weird way to put it, but it's actually been quite a headache this morning. So, just for context, in case people are wondering what Subzeroark is referring to, I woke up to this morning to my pipes not working. Our water's not working with no water pressure anymore. Our sinks are stopped working. The toilet doesn't work. Been a bit of a nightmare. But other than that, just cruising by. How are you doing, Subzeroark? How are things with you?
I'm doing good. For me, the toilet not working is the BLP system for Project PB. I'm hearing that it's scamming people who deserve to be higher elo like myself out of good points. So
You're
that's
just
that's
you.
my
I feel like every time before we start recording, I air my grievances that have been affecting me the past like 3 days, and then Subzeroark uses it as like starter fuel for like every one of these podcasts. That is
it's pretty good, right?
crazy.
Isn't it good though?
What a bit. That's crazy. And then I gotta explain the context, and then we're like 15 minutes into the episode, and we haven't even fucking talked about anything. Oy, oy, oy. All right. But, I mean, speaking of Project PvE, though, the major is coming up this weekend. Have you qualified for it yet?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I'm rank 1 on the tier 1 ladder.
Oh, hell
Everybody's
yeah.
asking me, how are you so good at the game?" And I said, "Well, it's just some people are built different."
Speaking of how you're so good at the game, dude, this Kai Wing guy, oh my god. I don't think, just for reference, maybe Mr. Editor-san can like put up on the screen just how much this guy's dominating the PvE ladder right now. But he's I think over 1500, which is
Oh, he's
crazy.
1600.
He's
I just
six,
pulled it up.
really, he's 1600 BLP, and the next one's what, 11?
Yeah.
That's wild. That is wild. For context, you start at 500. You start at 500, and these are like top pros and players playing against each other like all the time. And these are like these are people who've gone to worlds multiple times, people who have won worlds, people who are like rank 1 on their servers, people who are in the TPC. Like these are like really, 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 really well known players and strong, strong players. And this guy is just like what, like 1.5x the next person's points on the
Yep.
leaderboards. Like that's insane.
Mhm.
Everybody
Yeah.
else, like, dude, even like YBY1, who's like known to like dominate this kind of thing, like he is not even as high up as Kai Wang is. Not even close. I think he's in the 1K
He's
range.
like he's like 1K. He's rank 4 right now. Just pulled
Yeah,
it up.
which is still again incredible, but like
Yeah.
not nearly as dominating, which is like wild. I was talking to some of the people in the Brownie study group because Kai Wing's in that study group. I think he's in some other study groups as well. But they're basically telling me, yeah, like you gotta like nerf his, you gotta buff, no, you gotta nerf how much he's losing per game or something like that. So I gotta work on the formula, I guess. But this guy is just like, he's just the most consistent. So it's really impressive to see. So we definitely need to do like a deep dive on his match history before the major. But anyways, let's get on to today's video. Let's start talking about a couple of hot takes. We got a couple of good ones. This is gonna be the Kenneth episode, for lack of a better term, because we have our first dedicated commenter putting out these actually pretty interesting takes that I do want to talk about, and I think we're just gonna really just go through all the ones that he's provided with us. So kind of a shout out to you, bro. Appreciate you for commenting in the section below. If you want to see your hot takes on Teamfight Takes, leave in the comment section below. First one, this is a good take. Double trouble style augments are uninteresting and should be removed if they are going to keep printing the exact unit to play with it every set.
I see where Kenneth is coming at with this one. Where yeah, I mean we had a Malzahar comp, Cassiopeia, who's kind of like Malzahar but a little different. Samira Orm was at least like a little bit interesting, but they yeah are basically always the same comp that just this comp exists. It's broken with double trouble. That's the only comp that you can play with double trouble, and that's it. Um, Honestly, I medium style disagree with this. I will say I think it's fun to have an augment that makes you play a completely different game. I think especially for like new casual players, like it's cool. It's like, oh, what is this? Double trouble, play two of the same unit, and you see someone playing two Cassios, and you're like, what the heck? That's so weird. What I will say and what I do agree with is that they do need to work on like the balance of the unit with and without double trouble. We ended up in this world last set where like Samira Orin, it was like, okay, like if you get the double trouble, it was like really, really broken for a while, then like completely unplayable otherwise. And then by the end of the set, they got it like pretty balanced with or without. But that's the main thing that I think they have to look out for with double trouble.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I actually think I disagree as well because I actually agree on the part where he says it's a bit uninteresting. I think it's become optimal now to kind of figure out like what is the best double trouble unit. In this case, is Cassiopeia. But I will say that I think people treat double trouble like you must play the most meta line every single time, and there's no other way to play it. But there are a lot of niche case, like I would say actually there are a lot of niche case scenarios where if you know the 3-star version of a unit is good and you have a very early 2-star copy of it, you can still play double trouble even if it means that you're playing some sort of like weird off meta like line. Like, are you gonna top 2 with it? No, absolutely not. But like, can you scrape by with like a 4th or a 3rd with it? You absolutely can. And so I do think, like, for example, Cassiopeia, the reason why she is like the go-to double trouble unit right now is because of the way that her spell works, right? With the poison. Essentially, she
Mhm.
is poisoning non-poisoned units first, and then poisoning units that are poisoned already, and then the poison stack. So that in itself is kind of like been like the bread and butter for a lot of these. It's either that or knockups. But I'm not gonna lie, I find knockups really cool. I think do you remember this is what was this? Set
The Talia thing?
9 Talia. Yeah, set 9 Talia. Bro,
Hmm.
that was a cool fucking comp. The knockup comp,
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Hmm.
Like it didn't hit the same with Samira. I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah. Mhm.
You ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Oh yeah.
I think the Talia comp speaks to me personally, just because it kind of feels like I'm watching Double Toff on my board, and I feel like that's kind of cool. I can't lie.
Yeah. No, I agree. That comp was really cool. Yeah, you know what? Even the more I think about it, the more I disagree with this take because honestly, last set we even had like a few like little like double trouble. You know, you'd have like Leona Printer get like Leona 4 and then have like an extra Leona on top of your board, which is funny. I mean, there's even like random games where I was like, oh, I can't play this double trouble comp, so I played some like double trouble Zoe comp or whatever. I had a game when Samira was super super broken, 3 people in the same lobby took 2 tanky, and I was like, oh no. And one person ended up playing Samira. I played like Zoe Leona stuff, and then Tactician, the TFT player and like creator, ended up playing like Double Trouble Gnar stuff. And me and Tactician top forward, and the Space Group player ended up bot forward, which was kind of hilarious. But like so even last set there were multiple, not like S tier lines like you're saying, Kai. Like it's balanced around those lines, but you have a few like, oh, if this is super contested, I can play another line, and it's like it's okay, not the end of the world.
Yeah, and again, like I think there's as the set evolves, there's gonna be more and more lines that will be pretty like evolving out. They probably won't be nearly as good as Cassiopeia, just based on the way that her spell works. So unless that gets reworked, I don't really see there being like a world where we have a new meta double trouble line. But you never know. And I think again, there are ways to play around double trouble that don't have to be just the standard meta line. So I am, for one, a big fan of having this in the game, just because it does open up those niche cases every once in a while. And I think that's pretty interesting. There you
Yep,
go.
agreed.
All right. Oh god, this is a good hot take. This is a good take. Big TFT creators are too lazy and should expand their content.
I okay. I'm also like I I agree with this, but I also disagree with this. But I agree
Okay.
with this, but I also disagree with this. Okay, so I do think that I mean, what Kenneth is talking about here is absolutely real. I mean, even if you look at like somebody like uh Soju, like the biggest TFT content creator, that guy is not like passionate about like evolving TFT content creation, the the art form that content creation is. That guy likes to go live and play TFT, and that he has somebody. I 100% there's no shot he is doing this, who like cuts down his games and like uploads them to a YouTube channel. And honestly, I think that's I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great to, like, play to your strengths and be like, "This is what I like to do. This is what I enjoy, and I'm gonna do that." So I think that's great. I will say that that does lead to, there's not a lot of, like, new type of content. Like, if tomorrow Soju was like, "I'm gonna become, like, the Ludwig of TFT and always constantly be doing all this, like, weird stuff out there," like, it would be interesting, for sure. I will also say, like, I don't know how much I even think this is like a what do they call it? Norminal, like a good or a bad thing. Because like I do like the like challengification of everything where every content creator is like, if I'm playing this game, it has to be a challenge. I have to, beat this game in X amount
Mm.
of hours so that I can turn that into a YouTube video, or I'm playing it with this weird stipulation. I played Dark Souls, but I never pressed the A button or whatever. It's like, okay, like, I mean, that's cool, I guess, but it's like, does every game have to be that thing? I almost kind of admire TFT content creators just like, yeah, I'm just gonna turn on stream, queue it up. We're gonna play some games, maybe turn those into YouTube videos. Maybe every once in a while I'll make a TikTok, and then boom, we're done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think TFT is probably one of those spaces where the content creation is really stale. I even remember that, like, for me personally, like, the only reason why I even got subscribers in the first place was because I was doing something a little bit different, which was, it was still educational content and guides, but it was like kind of like a more of like a cinematic, highly edited kind of version of guides. And even then, like, I think nowadays when we think about long form content in the TFT space, it really just is like gameplay videos shortened down. Um, I don't want to put somebody, oh, fuck it, whatever. But like, for example, like, I think Kurum, I love Kurum. I love watching his streams. His streams are actually like really entertaining for me. But I don't think that like his gameplay videos that he's trying to revive his YouTube, just in case anyone's curious, or revive, or maybe even start. I don't know which one it is. But for him, like, I feel like these gameplay videos are just like not the way to go about it if he really wants to like succeed on long form, because the space is saturated. Everyone's doing content already in a way where it's like, these are my games, and like, you can watch my games and watch me play these games, and it's just like everyone does it, and like the space is super saturated, and like, unless you were like literally like Wasian or like Dish Soap or Soju, who already has been doing this since like the very beginning and it was already there first, like, you need to find a new way to enter the content game, especially in TFT. So I actually think I agree. I think they are lazy and they don't expand their content. I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if people are just like not hungry, but I also think that TFT also just does not have that much room to work with when it comes to being creative with it. And maybe I'm just being a boomer saying that, but when it comes to TFT specifically, I feel like it's really hard to make good content, especially making it evergreen in a long format version. I mean, someone has, ideas, I'm open to hear them. But like right now, TFT is gameplay, educational content, and those are like the two main things. It's either you learn about the game through a creator or you watch somebody play the game. And then there's like some other stuff too that's like more common with like normies, if you will. But like people who like love seeing the 3-star 5 costs, or like, hey, like I high rolled this insane 10 ionic spark composition with like Pandora's items or whatever. And like, those are the things like clearly like will get the views, but are not very easy to recreate, especially in like a TFT context. So I mean, again, like, maybe I'm just being, annoying and old, but I do think it's a lot harder to experiment with the content in TFT space. It's very easy to just sit on a throne and just be like, yeah, you guys got to innovate more if you guys want to do better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. That is like the easiest thing to say of all time is, yeah, you guys should do better. You guys should do more thing instead of less thing. But like, actually, like, thinking about what that thing is, it's difficult. I had a couple of examples that I thought of, that are people who have like tried this a few times to, some good success, some not good success. I think Gangly made a few like really
Mm.
interesting like TFT like history videos. He did the one about like War Week, the one about just like Set One, which is more like a history style. Like, this is was the craziest patch in TFT history. This is how it got there. Those videos did quite well. Those are also, I think, a lot more editing intensive. A lot of work has to be put into those type of videos, but those did quite well. But also, I think Gangly is somebody who tries to do a lot of different stuff. He's got he's wearing so many hats, doing so many different things that I don't think he's like fully focused on that. There was once upon a time like one guy who was like making those kind of videos named like Namzi TFT, I
Namzi.
think.
Yep.
And then that guy pivoted to making like videos about like popular movies, and it's like Elf from the perspective of the like dad from Elf, and I'm like, I
The-
mean, if that's what
it-
gets if that's what pays the bills, you know what? I get it. I get it because I'm pretty sure
it's
this.
1000% what pays the bill, and that's the sad reality of TFT content is that like people are doing it because they're passionate about it. It's like there's
Mhm.
no money in it. When Namzi made that pivot from TFT historian, which got like 20-30K views per video, and then he became movie historian, and then was getting like millions of views per video, it's like, dude, it's like not even a competition. If you're in YouTube because you want to make money as a creator, and being a creator is like your passion, you like that's the reality. Like you have to feed to the masses. You need to create content that's going to be appealing to the general audience. And unfortunately, TFT content in the gaming space specifically, it's very hard to make it as a content creator.
Yeah,
So,
and to just loop that back into like the main kind of idea, like I do think it's easy to say people should try new stuff, but like there are people who have tried new stuff and been kind of like punished for it. There's a lot of work that goes into like trying a new type of video format out, trying to do something like completely different, and like a lot of times, these videos, Kenneth in this post was talking about making like trivia or challenges, tournaments, things like that. I mean, especially running an entire tournament. I mean, Kai would know. Takes a lot of work. It is an insane amount of time and effort. And so, just saying, oh yeah, just like snap your fingers and boom, do that thing. Great, but like if you put even like into a trivia thing, people have done like TFT Jeopardy and stuff like that, and that is another thing where it's like you might put in 10 hours on total, like making like a TFT Jeopardy thing, and then like a few hours like editing it together and stuff like that, and you upload it, and it gets like 100 views because like who's really clicking and being like, "Ooh, I want to watch TFT Jeopardy." I mean, the Kurum stuff makes sense because it's easy, boom, boom, boom. You just put the videos out, and even if it doesn't do that well, it's at least it's not like a huge time cost
mhm.
towards creating that type of thing.
Yeah, and TFT is also one of those games where it's like you need time to learn the game and get good at the game because every set
Mhm.
iterates and you have to relearn all the mechanics, and then you also have to relearn like not just the mechanics and like what each unit does, but also just what is good. You have to stay up to date every single day, and that's a huge time sink. And that's actually like one of the flaws of TFT, I think, when it comes to like getting people more interested into the game is just the amount of work it takes to actually get good at it. And I think that when it comes to like TFT content, a lot of it kind of hinges on the fact that like it's not all content, just to be clear, but like a lot of the content, like especially if you're watching for like educational purposes, like you need to be good at the game. So like trying to output educational content while trying to stay up to date and like aware as to like the situations, like what's going on. It's not like, for example, in chess, you could be a GM and your knowledge from 15 years ago is still fairly relevant. Like there's probably some new strategies with openers and stuff, but generally speaking, like a lot of it holds up over time for like years and years and years. But like TFT, it's like there's only so much information that is fundamentally congruent throughout every single set. That being like econ, that being like maybe some like minute positioning stuff, and then maybe like the way that we itemize certain units. That's about it. And like outside of that, you can't make content all the time about econ, about itemization, about positioning, because I mean you're just running, you're just beating a dead horse at that point. Like I made, just on like a little aside, I made a TFT econ video back in set 8, and I rewatched it just to see if it held up. And the only thing part about that video that didn't hold up was the 12 minutes that came after the first 5. That was a VOD review of Dish Soap playing the game because that's an old set. But the first 5 minutes still, for the most part, held up, which is crazy. So it's like I can only make so many videos about econ, or itemization or whatever. So I do think like DFT also just has like this evergreen problem that also just is becoming an issue when it comes to like content creation. And I remember when you said like people got punished for experimenting. I have one video where I VOD reviewed K3 soju, but I drank soju every time I disagreed with him or every time he yapped or something. Oh, there's definitely some people who did not like that. They were like, "You're promoting alcoholism," and I'm like, I'm an adult. Like I'm in my mid-20s when I filmed that shit. I was like, dude, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I'm not trying to like, I put disclaimers at the beginning. I'm like, hey, like alcohol's not okay. But every once in a while, I gotta cut loose. But like, the point is, you gotta be careful with what you experiment with, and sometimes it'll bite you in the ass. I saw a dip in subscribers I'd never seen before when that video came out. So that
Really?
was I did. I that was the biggest dip in subscribers I'd ever seen, and I was like, "Fuck, that is so bad." But the people that loved it really loved it, and the people that hated it really hated it. So it was a very polarizing video. I might do it again at some point because I think it was fun. Because at the time I was full-time content, so it was like kind of hard to like be like, well, I don't know if I can do it again. But nowadays, I could do it now. Fine.
Just
But
send
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
gotta be careful with how you innovate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I just think it's so funny, by the way. Sorry, this is the one last thing about this take. Is that at the very bottom it says, no flame to Subzeroark. By the way, I watch every one of your videos. I think it's just
Yeah.
so funny.
I mean, we already knew. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously the goat of YouTube content, but
They go
even
to-
even me, I could, I've tried to do more like guide videos and stuff like that. I think like weird, wacky challenges are like probably not in my wheelhouse. Maybe someday. Maybe once I make the pivot to TFT, real content creator, where I just start styling on fools for fun. But
Styling on
not
food.
right now. Not right now.
All right, let's go on to the next take. We are, speaking of beating a dead horse, let's go on to the next one. Here's a good take. TFT is being limited by the Tier 2 tournament system.
So there's actually a lot to talk about here. I completely agree with this. I would say. Um, I mean, we've talked multiple times before on this podcast about how the tier two system needs to be reworked, needs some kind of addition to it because it's just not enough right now. As Kenneth says here, like tier two players, I mean, there's only 32 tier one players per region. And so tier two players are the lifeblood of the competitive scene. These are all the people who are grinding, who are, hoping to make it to tier one. And I do think that, I like that the tier one system exists. I think that's very good for TFT. That there's this like aspirational, I can become a tier one player type thing in TFT. I think that's amazing, and I'm super happy that they introduced the tier one system. I think that's really good for TFT. But you don't want it to be the tier one players. Kai, have you watched the anime Gachi Akura? This is it's a pretty new anime. It was picking up steam. I think it was one of Crunchyroll's 2026 winners of some kind of anime award. Do you know exactly what I'm talking about, Kai?
No idea at all,
My
actually.
my sister tried to get me to watch it. It was like pretty fun. But in that anime, there's the high class people who live in this beautiful society, and then there's the trash people who live on this other side of the wall, and they just live in this horrible, degraded society. And the high class people look down on the trash people. And I don't want tier two to be the trash people. I don't want tier two to be the
They
people
already are.
who
They already are.
who are looked down, and the high class people say, "Oh, I wouldn't ever. Oh, woe is me. I would never want to be a tier two player down there." And that is, I mean, like you say, Kai, it's a little bit of how it is right now, where you get 2 tournaments per set, really, for tier two. That's it. And it really feels like people, really good players, can sit and kind of like languish in tier two. I mean, Dank Memes was stuck in tier two for multiple sets, finally made it out last set. So I agree with this take. What do you think, Kai?
It's kind of hard. I think I do agree that TFT is being limited by the Tier 2 tournament system, but I want to add on that it's also being limited by the Tier 1 tournament system. Because I think the problem right now is that TFT Tier 1 is not profitable. It's purely out of passion from Riot's perspective, from what I can understand.
You mean profitable for Riot?
Or Riot to be creating this esports ecosystem for TFT. I think they see the potential in it, which is why they continuously try to iterate on it. But I don't know if it's really gonna ever. I don't think it's ever gonna hit the point where like League is, where League is like every single year we got worlds tickets. Like if you try to get worlds tickets this year in New York City, fucking terrible time. It's so many people who are trying to get it. So many people are scalping the tickets because they know the demand is there. It's very profitable for League to continuously invest into the tier 1 ecosystem because they found a format that works. TFT tier 1 It's just the people who are like super, super, super passionate about TFT who actually watch it, and even then, not everybody watches it because the esports viewing system is just not the best. That's just the reality. And like we've talked about this before in like previous sets as well. I remember we were doing when I was doing the co-streamer program, and then when I was in that program, a hot topic all the time was like, dude, this like TFT esports viewing experience is like not the greatest, right? We've seen this in not just CFT but other esports as well. I keep bringing up chess today for some reason, but chess has the same issue as well, where it's like as a casual viewer watching chess is so boring. Oh my god, have you ever tried to watch Magnus and Hikaru play? These are like the top two in the world. It's supposed to be the most like hype thing of all time, but like unless you are at least like 15 2k elo like watching this shit, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. He moved the knight, like, so what? It's been like an hour. I don't know what the hell's going on. So like I think TFT experiences like the same issue. And then another thing too is that if you get good enough at the game, you already know what the line is. So then from like, especially in sets like set 15 or even set 17, where like the lines are so crystal clear from 2-1, it is so boring to watch because you're like, okay, I already know what this opener is, and now they're gonna play no, they're gonna play Corki. They're gonna play Meeple Corki with Riven. Like that's their end game board. I know exactly what they're gonna. They're not gonna innovate in any sort of way. Same with like set 14 with like Vexotech. It's like, oh, you load into the game, you know there's a Vexotech spot from 2-1, or you're playing Zeri from 2-1. So it's like it depends on the set, but it also just becomes one of these things where it's like there hasn't been a really good way to keep the games interesting to watch. There's no hype moments in TFT. There are maybe a couple, very, very few and limited in between. But unlike a game like Valorant, for example, where watching the esport in real time, like it comes up out of nowhere. There's no way to expect it. But in TFT, you can at least expect like, oh, there's a roll down, and then if they perform it well, then it's hype to watch. Oh, there's a Coven cash out coming out, then like, oh, we're gonna watch that transition. Like we know these things are gonna come up, but there's no like instant like, oh my god, did you see that? That was so sick. None of that exists in TFT. So like, yes, it is a strategy game. Yes, it is going to be a bit more slower paced than like Valorant or League or whatever of these other esports. But until tier 1 becomes a really good viewing experience, which I don't know the answer to that at all, right? Again, this is like I'm sitting on my throne and saying, dude, this better. But the reality is that like until tier 1 gets better, tier 2 is not going to see any like that much more improvements. It's really just like a community driven thing. Riot understands the like I know the 2XAO stuff came out, but like I assure you, Riot actually does give a damn about community. They genuinely do. A lot of this is like a lot of the 2XKO stuff. It's more like shareholder stuff and like Tencent and whatever. That's like probably what's really going on. But people are like misallocating the blame. Point is, what I'm trying to say is that community matters, and that's why TFT and Riot invests into the community aspect of things. But what I'm trying to say at the end of the day is that until tier 1 becomes a profitable viewing experience that people want to come watch and watch all the time, there's going to be no room for them to really want to improve the tier 2 systems.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is going to be a conversation where the short is going to be how long the short is, and then the long form is going to have like way more yapping in it, and that's fine. That's fine. If you're watching the long form, then boom, you get this full conversation because like I have to respond to like 10 different things that you just said there, Kai,
Yeah,
which are
sorry.
all good points. But I have a lot of thoughts. Okay. So one on TFT not being a profitable esport. I mean, yeah, I think Riot better than a lot of companies knows that like esports a lot of time is you're not in esports and you're not running esports events to make money. People always talk about how like the LCS, like the production of the LCS in League was always a losing money venture. They were putting on this really nice broadcast, paying all these like teams to well, like teams eventually bought spots and stuff like that. But it was a losing money venture for a very, very long time. But you don't do the LCS to make money. You do the LCS to create that aspirational thing up there in the sky that me as a 13-year-old kid playing League of Legends was like, oh my god, I could be in the LCS someday. I could be on that stage playing with Doublelift, and I never did, but I mean now I'm playing TFT, so you know what, we take those. So that is, and I think it's the same thing for TFT. Like I said at the start, like tier 1 is aspirational for people, and I don't think it has to be that much. I don't think tier 1 TFT necessarily even ever has to make money, even break even for it to be a success. If it just exists as this motivating factor that makes it so tier 2 players or even new players come to the game and they say, "Wow, there's these I didn't know they had TFT tournaments." And oh, wow, so people like compete at this and then they go to the opens or they play at the World Championships, the Tactician's Crown, like all this kind of stuff. Like it can exist just for that, and I think that's totally fine. I think that's great. So that's piece one of it is that like I don't think it needs to necessarily turn a profit. Now, what you are saying about like viewership in general is absolutely true. Like hey, I was commentating on the main broadcast in the previous set, and the main broadcast doesn't have crazy viewership. That's another thing that's kind of like I'm sure that Riot is not like making a ton of money putting on the main broadcast, but they do it because they want to have it as a thing that exists out there. I will say like you're kind of saying, Kai, with stuff like chess, is that like if you're sitting there and watching a super slow multi-hour long chess game, like nobody's doing that. What they are doing is watching like the Gotham chess videos afterwards, like seeing the recap, boom 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 boom, putting this into a format that they really like. I think in TFT, one of the things that has turned a lot of people off is just the constantly jumping around of POVs. You start the game on one player's POV, and then maybe you jump to another player for augment selection, and then you jump to a different player for 3-2 augment, and then maybe like there's a cash out that's going on, so you pivot to that player's POV, and you just boom 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 bounce around, and it makes it very hard to tell a kind of like coherent story of the game. You can try to tell the story of like the overall what's happening at this 8-person lobby, but that's very difficult because then you really have to keep in mind 8 different POVs throughout the entire game, and it gets very confusing. Like I will say, even being on main broadcast, we had a ton of like stuff like on the second monitor, something that showed all the players different like positions that they're in, like what their boards were. We were like constantly typing, asking questions to like production, being like, "Oh, what did this player cash out from this thing?" Or like, "What did this player get off this augment?" And that's just like, if it's that hard for us to spectate it as like experts on the game, then I know for like some person who's just like playing TFT, that's like impossible to follow. So I would actually like to see, and I'm sure they've thought about this, and maybe there's a reason why they don't do it. A main broadcast just say, "We're going into the broadcast lobby today. We're watching Soju's POV. We're gonna watch Soju's POV for this game, and until this guy gets eliminated, we're going to just lock in on his POV and see what happens here." Because that's how people consume TFT tournaments. They just boot up Soju's stream. They just say, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna boot up Soju's stream and watch him play because he's my favorite player, and I want to see how his game goes." And honestly, that does pretty well. If Soju's streaming a tournament, he's getting, like mid 5 digit, he's getting like 15K to like 20K like viewers like playing in a tournament. And like that's great viewership. I mean, that's more than a lot of other esports tourneys even like get for their entire tournament. And that's just Soju, and that's because Soju's an anomaly. But even if you're watching like a Dish Soap stream, a Wasian Ivor stream, they're getting like thousands of viewers on their individual POV in a tournament. So I think that's a big piece of it as well, is that just kind of like focusing in on POVs and just like leaning into that in TFT, because like clearly this version of just like boom 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 jumping around in different POVs is not working. The last thing, I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast before, but there is precedent for that. I was watching like a Magic the Gathering tournament with some friends of mine, and they do like draft where all the players are passing packs around. There's 8 players at a pod, and they're all like drafting a deck. And what they do for that is they focus on one player's POV. You watch every pick that this player gets, look at all the cards they're looking at, what card they end up picking. They pass the cards around, and then they end up building their deck around it. And so you watch them over time slowly build that deck. And then they even follow that player in their matches, which like there's no complete analog to TFT. But still, like locking in on that player's POV, I think it makes a lot more sense than like jumping around the draft and being like, "Wow, this person opened a really cool card." Like you're eventually going to see it in TFT. You're eventually going to see Soju fight the cash out player, or this other thing happen. Maybe you need like a little graphic on the side to say this person cashed out this thingy. But I do think like locking in on that player's POV could do a lot of good for the viewing experience in TFT.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really interesting point. I never really thought about that too. It's just that like you are correct in the sense that like following a single individual's POV is really hyped to watch, because it's like you get to see the story unfold from their perspective, right? And that's what storytelling is. But at the same time though, the viewership doesn't come because of the fact that Soju's just streaming his perspective. They're watching it because it's Soju, right? So I do wonder if like the future of TFT esports viewing experience is just like, hey, today we're gonna watch this player this game and then see how they perform, versus like just going throughout the lobby and scouting the lobby and seeing like what exactly is happening. Because I feel like if you just watch the individuals POV, especially if they're not scouting, you're kind of just like staring at the same thing the whole time, you know. So I don't know. I think it's actually interesting. I wonder if we should do something like that for the major. Like maybe we experiment a little bit with the viewing experience, but no, we can talk about this another time. But yeah, going back to the original take though, is TFT being limited by the tier 2 tournament system? I don't know if it's being limited. I just think that like the priorities are just like different at the moment. Like there are tier 1 players who are very talented at the game. They're no longer with us because there's no reason for them to stay in TFT. There's no money.
Okay, they're alive. They're still alive. Like,
Oh no, I don't mean like that. I mean like they're not within TFT. Like they're doing their own thing now. They got jobs or like, sorry, the J word, but like they got their own thing going on. Like we have this set 8 world champion does not play TFT anymore. The set I think does Jaywalking still play TFT? He won set 2 I think. I don't remember.
yeah, I don't even. I'm such a TFT zoomer, and by that, like, not really. Like, I don't even know what that guy.
I feel like I haven't seen
Yeah, I
his
don't.
name in like a minute. But like there's so many players who are like so talented. I have a buddy of mine who is he coached me in TFT before because he was rank 1 in set 8. He's so good at this fucking game. I think he generally has like some of the most like highest potential as like a player. But he literally just like plays the set if he likes it, and then if he does like it, he'll play a little bit. But he doesn't like full time it by any means. Like he has a job, he has like all these other priorities. Like he'll just like go on ladder, he'll like play for like he'll just like climb it, hit like rank 10, rank 5 or whatever, and then just like call it a day. And it's just like we have so many players who could be so good at this game, but they don't care enough because there's no reason really to care at the moment, monetarily speaking. So yeah, I don't know. I think tier 2, as much as I want tier 2 to expand and do better, it takes a lot of legwork. It's a lot of passion, and like esports has always been like this. It's always fueled by passionate people, and then eventually, if it ever gets to that point, then we'll start to see the system improve, and then the ecosystem starts to flourish. But we're just not at that point just yet.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple of things that I just googled. HJ Walking does still play TFT. Interestingly enough, he was actually at the Paris Open. I didn't even realize this. He played in the Paris Open. Went 323rd in the Paris Open, so did not have a good showing.
Oh, I
But I
think I did
also pulled
better.
up this.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
But I also pulled up this guy's YouTube channel, and this guy's posting like daily TFT videos. Dude, these two so man, TFT is so big in Asia. Like his
Yeah.
his every video is like at least 100K views, and he posts like a day, every
Oh,
single day.
really?
It's
Wait,
like,
yo, shout out to him then. Yo, okay, my fault. I'm just not familiar with this game at all. Bro, can you imagine walking through the TFT Paris Open and you're just like, nobody knows I'm a world champion?
but like I bet a lot of people do know him probably, but I mean,
Probably, yeah. If you're, he's Korean, right? So like, I mean, if you're
yeah.
a Korean player, you probably know who he is. So I apologize. I'm not Korean. I do not consume TFT Korean content. So no disrespect by any means. So shout out to him.
Yep.
All right. Next one. This is going to be the last one, but here's a good take. Riot should be much better at balance for how long TFT has existed. Oh man. What do you think about this one?
I I completely disagree with this one. I s- I see where Kenneth is coming with this. TFT is not a perfectly balanced game. There's, I mean, the examples that Kenneth gives here, like Timo and Belveth, being like nerfed, kind of like into the ground, even though they were not really like the culprits in their comp. This Soraka's embrace one, like, yeah, whatever, like a Kali, I guess. I'm not even sure what I mean, they're just saying that Akali was like over buffed. In general, I think actually some of these examples we can kind of break down some of these and talk through them, because I think these examples bring up some very different things in terms of TFT. What I'll start with is just this. TFT is a very hard game to balance. TFT is a game where there's constantly all of these moving factors that are all interacting with each other. I mean, you compare TFT to a game like League of Legends. If there's a broken champion in League of Legends, one, it can just be banned in a game of solo queue, so that's one thing. And two, even if a champion's broken, it might not interact with it. Like you might not play it in a game. Even if you do play it, it's there's only 10 champions on the map, so there's only so many like interactions between those champions. TFT is a game where like every piece kind of has to be reasonable because there's no bans, because it's a shared pool. It means that like the meta gets skewed really, 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 really hard by certain things being broken two cost, and that even because the way that TFT's pool works makes other two cost stuff more broken, because if everybody rolls for two costs, then it becomes better to roll for two costs as well. So there's just a lot of stuff that like makes TFT really, really, really difficult to balance, especially compared to like any other kind of like MOBA or like fighting game or anything like that. The rest in peace to XKO. That it's just it's very, very hard to balance. And I think some of these examples are very good examples of situations where like like Timo did get over nerfed. Yes, like that was a pretty obvious over nerf. Honestly, okay, I can talk more about this stuff, but I want to give you some space to yap about it, Kai. So what are your thoughts?
I don't agree with Kenneth here, unfortunately, just because I think should Riot be better at balancing? Yes, but it's not like a linear skill. It's not like learning how to ride a bike where at some point you're kind of just cruising. It's constantly ever changing. As like you said, there's a lot of moving parts. It also doesn't help with the fact that we keep talking about this and bringing this up, but the client was a huge issue, right? The meta evolves every single day. And you're telling me they gotta ship out a patch a week prior, if not earlier than that, before the next patch. Like there's so much that changes within a week, let alone a day. So I think that because of the system limitations, it was a huge issue. Now that being said though, that does mean that this excuse is going away with the new engine. So should Riot get better at balancing starting set 18? I think the answer is actually yes. I think because that system limitation is gone and that was a huge limitation, this is really up to them to prove to everyone that they can balance the game a lot better. And we've seen this before in the past where in prior sets, it usually takes, this is what I say, but from my experience, it usually takes about the 4th to the 5th patch of a set until the balance is good. That from their point onwards is when it feels better. And the reason why I say that is also because like Kenneth had mentioned, I didn't read the whole take because it's a little long for the short. But
It's not that long.
no, there's a whole other sentence after that. That's too long. It's not gonna fit on the point is. He does say that the way that TFT balances is that it results in swings and strengths that are either essentially non-existent or extremely heavy-handed. And I think that I agree with Mortdog's philosophy of you have to take heavy swings at the beginning, because you gotta swing and see like where where the bar really is, and then fine tune it from there on, and then work it out. I do agree with that philosophy, and I still think that like early patches of every set are gonna be heavy swings. But I do think that at the end of the day, though, we always do end up in a relatively pretty balanced meta by the end, and I think we're gonna hit that point a lot faster, assuming the bugs don't take up too much time during set 18.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I talked, I don't know how many episodes it was ago, but my take that like this is going to be one of the most balanced like release patches of all time, and I think we're on course for that. As long as too much broken stuff doesn't get discovered, we have this new like Caitlyn reroll comp that people are playing around that I know is like scary, and so we'll see how much stuff gets discovered before live. But they can swing to balance that. I I will just say like the Akali example is so funny to me because like that was a line that like we've had this happen in TFT before where like certain things like just get discovered kind of like that they're not playable for a really, really long time, not because they're bad but because players just haven't discovered them, and then all of a sudden they become playable. So it's funny, I feel like, to trot Akali out as like an example of like egregious balance when like even like high elo, tier one players were playing and like did not realize that this line could be like really played around until later in the set, when I don't even know who actually ended up like kind of like popularizing this line, but then it kind of like got discovered and then became very, very popular. So I think there's a lot of like hindsight in there of like, oh, obviously if you buff this unit, it'd be really, really good. I always wanted to do this thing, but never. Hey, goes back to like TFT content stuff that would be like difficult to do. Is to do kind of like a patch predictions with like a panel of like get like like Raptor and like you me Raptor and some other TFT expert out there, and then like every patch just go in and be like, this is the stuff that we think is overbuffed, this is the stuff that we think is underbuffed, and then like a week after the patch like revisit it. I'm pretty sure we would be wrong a lot of the time. There are a lot of times where people have been like, this thing is going to be broken after the patch. And it's like, whatever, it's fine. Or this thing's going to suck after the patch and it lands like perfectly normal. And that's just the piece of like TFT. There's so many moving parts that I think the game is very, very hard to balance. And it's also not going to like the Teemo example, right? Just because like something is good in the context of a comp does not mean you have to nerf exactly that thing and then leave everything else the same. Like if every piece of a comp is like a 5 out of 10 and then there's one piece that's an 8 out of a 10, maybe that comp is just meant to be balanced around that thing that's an 8 out of a 10, and like if you nerf that thing down, then the comp just doesn't become fun to play and doesn't become interesting to play. So that's like another thing, is that they don't have to just like cut the grass to like an even level. It might be more interesting if there are some kind of like spikes in power, if Leona is really strong. But the way we can nerf the Leona comp is by nerfing Teemo, even if he's not really the culprit. That might make for a more interesting, more fun gameplay experience. So I also think it's kind of like an oversimplification to say that like we should just always nerf the like main kind of like carry broken unit in the comp and then like leave everything else the same. Like I don't think that's necessarily the right approach just because it like seems the most balanced.
Yeah, I have an interesting idea, by the way, when it comes to balance. I don't know if you're ready for this one. This might be a hot take. Uh,
Uh-huh.
what if TFT brought bans with unlocks coming back?
No. No.
Why not?
That's nope, that's a terrible idea. And I if you bring this to, if I was the new Mort dog and you brought this to my desk, I would say get
You're
out of my
so okay.
office.
Here's the thing, though. I think TFT players are way too quick to say no. Why?
Yeah,
Why is
yeah,
that
that's
bad?
fair. I think there's a lot of TFT players who want to just queue it up and play their favorite comp. And if my, like, I guess, take this set for example, if my favorite comp is playing a Lilia comp, because for some reason I really, really like Lilia, and I load up TFT and Kai Watanabe bans Lilia, I'm like dodging the queue. I'm like this sucks. Also, I guess you're saying you'd only ban unlockable units, or you would be able to ban base units as well? Is what can you flesh out your idea a little bit, I guess, for
So
me?
here's my take. I think this is a bonus take for everybody. This is also, by the way, I think this could be a potential evergreen mechanic. I actually think this is really cool. I think with unlocks coming back in set 20, this is completely like, kind of like a tangent almost, but you mentioned this at the very beginning of this take, and now I want to talk about it because I can't stop thinking about it. But I think it would be really awesome because unlocks coming back, the pool becomes big again. But for balance
Mhm.
sake and for innovation's sake, if each player could ban one unit from the pool, it does not appear in your shops anymore. Any augment related to that unit will not appear anymore. I think that would be really interesting. It forces you to innovate with with like the limited pieces that you have. And sure, like if you main Lilia, oh, I want to play Lilia so bad. I love Lilia, whatever. The same argument could be made for TFT. Or not TFT, sorry, for League. It could be a cast in one trick, but if your main gets banned, then you gotta play something else. I think this could actually be a really interesting way to force people to innovate on the spot, create new compositions on the fly, and really have a deeper understanding of like unit quality and like understanding like what works together with each other. I think that sounds incredibly cool.
Okay. So you still didn't answer my main question though, is would you be able to ban an unlock, like, because
Yes, any unit.
any unit?
Yeah, but there would probably have to be a
Kai,
limit. Like it'd be like there's like X amount of one cost could be banned, or like X amount of two costs could
no,
be banned, or whatever.
no, we got to take this takeout back. This doesn't make any damn sense, Kai. Like,
No, it makes
okay,
so much
so
sense. Wait, how does it not make any sense?
Okay.
It
So
forces
for
wait, hold on. It forces innovation. It forces people to ban things that they think are unbalanced and out of line. So then that way the game feels more fair. What is bad about it? It removes the staleness of the game itself. It forces you to strategize, which is the whole point of TFT in the first place.
how does it force innovation?
Let's say Caitlyn is broken right now, and then Caitlyn is
Uh-huh.
banned. You can no longer play that anymore. Then what else? What do you fall back to? You probably fall back to a different reroll comp. Okay, cool, but that's also banned. Then what? What do you have to play after that? What are your options?
But you're reducing the subset of available comps. I
No,
guess
you're
you're saying
reducing
by
the subset of pre-made comps.
but but no, by banning a unit from the game, no new comp gets created.
No, yes, it does because you're forced to innovate. Like, what are you slotting in instead?
I mean, a lot of comps it doesn't exist. If you ban Caitlyn, you're not going to play Caitlyn reroll minus the Caitlyn because that's not a comp.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to play something else.
So now that comp doesn't exist within this game. That is reducing your available options. And what if you get a really good Caitlyn reroll spot and you're like, oh crap? Well, now because Kai became the gameplay director for TFT, now I can't play this comp, and now I have to play some other comp that doesn't even exist. Like it doesn't like then I have to like you're just it is reducing options. It's reducing options, and I mean not even to say like okay, so if you banned, for example, if you ban like this set here, okay, well all of a sudden then Ari also becomes a lot worse because now you've just lost the tank that pairs up with your Ari. So like it also has like domino effects where like imagine you know 3 4 cost tanks get banned or something. Like all of a sudden you're like trying to scramble and figure out how to. I mean, that would actually be probably the best example, like the best case scenario where then, okay, everybody would just like play 3 cost tanks or 5 cost tanks. But like imagine if just set got banned, then like Ari becomes less playable. And once again, that's just like a comp that becomes a lot worse because of this ban idea. That I don't think that does anything positive for the game. I think that just reduces options. And like the easier solution to Caitlyn being broken and warping the meta is just to nerf Caitlyn a little bit, and it's not to introduce bans to TFC so that we can
I
all.
think you are too conservative in your view when it comes to innovation, and I think that I am actually cooking with this one quite hard. And I hope Kenneth sees this because I do hope that he comes back and he's just like, oh, yo, this Kai guy's either like cooking real good stuff or he comes. I don't know why Kenneth is the source of truth on this, by the way, but like maybe I'll reach out. I don't know. I got. I already. I'm actually. As I was thinking about it, Marcel reached out to me about something about Project PV related, but then I asked him about what his thoughts were on it. He says it actually sounds really interesting. So, hey, it's already two against one right now.
You just asked him about it while we were sitting here?
Yes, I did while you were talking. So he literally messaged me at it's right now 11:20. He messaged me
Mhm.
at 10:40 about some Project PV stuff, and then at 11:15 I responded to him about his Project PV inquiry, and I wrote, by the way, what are your thoughts with unlocks coming back and if TFT brought bans back? We had this like full conversation
What do
on
you
the
mean
side.
brought bans back? There's never been. What do
Oh,
you mean?
if we brought bans to TFT, excuse me, that's what I meant to say. But I think it'd be so cool.
I do not think it. I mean, this is a battle it out in the comments, I guess type vibe because
All I'm saying is that his last sentence was, if with dev support for implementing, it would be super interesting for sure. So I am just
yeah,
saying, I think it makes sense because it forces you to innovate on the spot, right? Depending or not innovate, but it forces you to re-strategize based off what is provided to you. And sure, you'd have to prep more, but think about also like the implementation within 4v4. I think that'd be so cool.
I think I think not only is it like kind of a clunky idea for the reasons why I've laid out, but also would be like absolutely like if players hated shadow items, if they were not a fan of like the gods selection, like if Riot came in and said our new set mechanic is unlocks, but you can ban units, there would actually be a player revolt is all I will say. If this ever did come to pass, I think players would absolutely hate this mechanic.
I think it's an evergreen mechanic. I think I cooked with this one. Oh man. I think I'm cooking up a 3-star, no, 4-star Michelin meal with this one, dude. It sounds so interesting to me.
Just because Marcel is trying to get into your good graces and
That's
glaze
not
you,
true at
Kai.
all. I'm gonna be asking. I'm gonna put out a tweet later today. I'm gonna put out a tweet that's gonna say, how I'm gonna phrase this. Mark my words. With unlocks coming back, bans should become a thing, and it will be an evergreen mechanic. That will be the exact tweet, word for word. And I'll
You're
wait for
really,
people.
really not only are you saying that it even will work in the first place, but it'll be so good that it'll be evergreen.
Yes, I think it would be evergreen. I think that would be so. I think it would be an evergreen. If unlocks are evergreen, I think this would be evergreen. I think at the very
I
least, it could be a mechanic for a set, and we try it out, see how it feels, and then if people like it, great. If they don't, hey, we tried it. But I swear to fucking God, if we ever get another set with like hacks again, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. We need some innovation. I'm telling you, I would much rather play. You agree? At the very least, for a set, I'd much rather play with a mechanic that's like bans than fucking hacks. Like fuck that shit. I'm not doing that shit ever again.
uh sure, but I mean, you could say that wisps are. I mean, it's just the exact same old set mechanic reprinted, and I think people have been very positive about wisps. So, I mean, obviously, you have to pick the good set mechanics to reprint, but that's that's a different piece of it entirely. Overall, I will say as well, Kai. I mean, I don't want to just come out of the gate and just dismiss things here. I don't want to be averse to change and innovation, but not just because something is a crazy idea doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. And sometimes because something sounds like it sounds like a crazy idea because it's just trash. It's a bad idea. Like
No, it's actually an incredible idea. I think I've actually cooked with this one. It's incredible. It's gonna garner so many supporters. It's gonna garner so many haters. But then once people start playing it, they're gonna be so crazy. Because think about it. When Unlocked was proposed, people were probably like, "What the fuck, dude? Unlocked sounds fucking terrible. 120 units in the game. Like,
I
no
don't
one's
think
gonna play
anyone
that
said
shit."
that.
And
I
then
think everybody
everybody,
was like, "It's
once they
really
played it, they're
cool."
like, "Oh my god, this set is the best set of all time." I'm just saying, it's the same shit all over again, man. Oh my god, dude.
Nobody said that about Unlocked. Nobody saw Unlocked and said this sounds like trash. They were like, "Wow, that sounds really cool. That's really
Was
smart."
there ever a set mechanic where it was like, wow, this sounds like trash, and then it turned out to be really awesome?
Yeah,
Yeah. Wait, which one?
yeah, there is one. Legends.
All right, we're gonna end it here. Thank you guys for watching the video today. I think the editor is gonna have a bit of a time with this one, so I apologize in advance. Any closing last remarks before we head off?
This was a fun one. I do. I mean, shout out to Kenneth for all the takes that we farmed in this video. But if you are someone else watching this video and you have a hot take that you want us to cover, I mean, all these takes were really interesting to talk about and fun. I like when me and Kai come up with the takes, but if somebody else comes up with the takes, it's even more fun because we get to like if I write a take, I of course agree with it. But if Kenneth writes a take, I can say, I think it's stupid that you're saying this thing, or I think it's really smart that you're saying this thing, and I think that's a great part of it. So definitely would love to see even more viewer takes in the next few episodes, in all of the future episodes. So yeah,
Just to be
shout out
clear,
to our viewers.
just to be clear, if Kenneth is watching this, no, he's not saying your takes are stupid. That's not what he means at all. He's just being a little dicey with the words. But anyways, I think that's gonna do it. Take care, guys. Have a good one. See you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.